Hey everyone, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Brittany Skyler, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, we speak with the museum educator for the Bronx Museum to learn more about the Bronx Museum's Teen Council program. Then, one of the co-lead authors of the Falling Through the Cracks report talks about how lead poisoning is still a serious problem in some areas. After that, we take a look back at an interview with the CEO and founder of Bandana.com. And finally, we speak with two representatives of the Bronx LGBTQ Expo to learn more about this year's theme. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Skyler, and today is Tuesday, June 17th. You're now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. The Bronx Museum's Teen Council is a paid internship program for New York City high school students ages 14 through 19 that provide opportunities to engage with contemporary art in the museum space. It runs in both the fall and spring and includes a 4-week summer program. Teens participate in a variety of projects, including meeting with artists, curating exhibitions, and creating art. Joining me now is the museum educator for the Bronx Museum, Wildriana de Jesús Paulino. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Brittany. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Of course. So to start things off, let's talk about what the Teen Council at the Bronx Museum is all about.
Yes, so as you mentioned, the Teen Council program is a program that holds teenagers into the museum and basically introduces them to everything that the museum has to offer, not only in the creative field, but also in the community setting. So at the Bronx Museum, we accept these teens basically as interns, and this is a paid opportunity. So they are compensated for everything that they do here, which goes from collaborating with artists to making their own exhibitions, developing their own artworks, but also collaborating with what happens inside of the museum. One of the main things that we focus on, it's on actually voicing out the teen perspective into the museum, which may look like the teens collaborating with the curators or teens collaborating in public programs that we hold around.
That's amazing. And now, one thing I'd say would set this program apart is the payment, right? We don't see a lot of payment for teens in that age bracket. But tell me, what else makes this program stand out and differ from others here in New York City?
I think as someone who actually also comes from a teen program, when I was a high school student, I participated in a teen program at a different museum. What sets us apart, of course, besides their compensation, the empowerment that you feel for getting compensated for creative work at such an early age, is the fact that we really do make an effort to include them onto every aspect of the museum. So they have a lot of agency, and we really trust them into developing and taking on responsibilities around family programs that we hold and the events that they host. Some of these may look like last summer, the teen summer cohort, they helped develop the labels for Making Room and exhibition that we hold at the museum. And currently, the exhibition that we hold right now, Working Knowledge, the font that is being used actively throughout the exhibition was developed alongside with artist Lin Jun and the fall cohort of the Teen Council. So they work around everywhere, and they see the names in the labels around the museum, which I find is very empowering.
Absolutely. And now you mentioned that you were a student of a teen council yourself.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your experience and how did that end up influencing you into your position today?
Oh, yes. So I was a student at a different teen program in a different museum. But as someone who is now on the other end, who is an educator now, it influenced a lot of my decisions after that, after I was 17 years old. So it taught me that there is a world, that there are possibilities of professional development within the museum context. I never learned about any of these professions, like being a museum educator, a registrar, a curator. I never heard any of those professions until I was actually introduced to these programs. So I think that it gives the opportunity to young people to know that they can pursue a creative field.
And so would you say that the education component is one of the ways that the teens are empowered through this program?
Yes. So it's the program is held, of course, through the education department. So it is, of course, education, but it is also creative freedom. The classroom that we hold in the museum, which is the third floor, basically belongs to them. That's their living studio. So alongside developing ideas for events and for the exhibitions they hold, and proposals, they also have access to all of the materials that we hold at the museum, that and more. So we also develop projects and prompts to basically introduce them to new techniques, or sometimes artworks and making that is related to an exhibition that we have on view of a visiting artist. So this is another way that they get encouraged.
And so tell me, what does a day-to-day look like for a teen in this program?
Our day-to-day is very different, but the one constant is the check-ins. So of course we start with the check-in and with a very interesting questions every day. You never know what will come out. But then after, of course, we do the check-in. We then go through some housekeeping stuff. So housekeeping just meaning how is the day going to look like, or days during the fall semester and the spring semester usually are 2 hours from 4:30 to 6:30. So we go through the laundry list. What we need to get done. Do we need to start writing labels? Do we need to start thinking, brainstorming, or proposal for the open call? Do we need to review anything? Are we going to interview or meet someone from the museum, or have an artist talk with one of the exhibiting artists? So it may look always different, but the one constant is that engagement that we give them, and us facilitators, us educators, we're just there as facilitators. We basically just go through the list, but they take on their responsibility to approach it however they see fit, which is usually good.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, it is different every day, but it sounds very structured, which again, I think is so important for teens.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are some standout projects or maybe some staple projects that they participate in?
Well, as of recently, one of the standout projects that they just finished, and is actually part of the culture of the Teen Council program since it was founded in 2005, it's the creation of their zine. So they publish a zine, and a zine, for those of us who are not familiar with it, is basically a short form magazine. So they create this zine. They discuss the topics, they choose on the theme, they also create the templates, they create the content for it, and they arrange it. And we have gotten to the point that we are teaching them how to print it in-house. That can go many ways, but the point is to give them the agency to create this staple that is part of the Teen Council program, but to make it their own. And other projects, of course, right now we're coming up to the opening reception of the Teen Council exhibition. It was an open call. The title is All Points Perspective. It's quite a long title, but very nice. And the opening reception will actually be tomorrow, Wednesday 18, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And everyone is welcome to come into the Bronx Museum to see.
That's awesome. Tell me, what can they expect when they walk in?
When they walk in, the exhibition will be on the second floor. And aside from witnessing the beautiful work that was submitted to this open call, and this actually is work that was not created by the teens. This is work that the teens put up the work out, and then they went as a judging panel. They went through all of the options, and then they judge what artwork actually connects to the theme of the open call. So we're going to see a lot of those works. You're also going to see the zine that they created, and everyone will be free to take any copies. They're all free to take. You're also going to, of course, listen to music, and the teams will also be hosting a couple of activities to engage the public with the exhibition they're organizing.
The zine sounds so exciting. I really wish there was a project. Like, I would really wish I got to do a project like that when I was in school. But tell me, through this program, are there any college or career pathways that open up for the students?
Well, the way that we approach that is by introducing teens to the museum stuff. I think just like many museum teen programs across the city, the way that you grow and like follow a career path is through meaningful connections and is through exposure. So the way that we do that is basically by exposing them to these people and making those meaningful connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything I've heard so far sounds so fun and so exciting. So tell me, you mentioned that the summer applications are open and they close on June 29th. Tell me a little bit about the application process.
Yeah, so the application process, well, there are a couple of questions, but basically it will ask you why you're interested of being part of the teen summer or the teen council, where you're coming from, and also a submission of any piece of creative work. And I want to emphasize creative work because that doesn't mean that you have to be a great drawer, a great painter. A piece of creative work can be just a really nice essay, a nice poem. We have a lot of writers, and we love writers because we need writers for the zine. So we ask for that, and we ask you to explain how does this artwork, relates to you, and why are you choosing it to represent yourself. And also then we do an interview, in-person interviews, and the interview basically has two things. One, they are working in groups, and another one is a one-on-one interview, and then from that we decide.
That sounds so fun. It is a great process, right? And again, it's an artistic process, which is really cool. So at the end of this, what do you hope that the teens take away from this program?
So by the end of this program, one of the things that not only I hope, but I witness that they take away, it's a deeper understanding of the value of the museum in the community, because many times we see the museum as white walls that just showcase fancy artwork that we cannot touch. So letting them understand and know that not only is the museum a community space for the people, by the people, I feel like the Bronx Museum represents that. It's also a space where you can be creative, where you can become part of the conversation. And of course, besides that community that is formed within the museum, another takeaway that I see they take, and I hope that they take, it's just that nobody makes art alone. And by making art alone, I don't mean necessarily being an artist, but just being involved in any sort of creative field or any sort of creative doing. Teen Council is very focused on working in collaboration, working in community, not only within ourselves, but also across the museum as a whole. So I think that's one of the main takeaways.
That's amazing, Wildriana. Thank you so much for sitting down with us this morning. I learned so much about this program, and it is very, very exciting. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So to our viewers at home, if you want to learn more about this program, please go to their website at bronxmuseum.org. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this.
We're gonna start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at BronxNet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at bronxnet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit bronxnet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
Welcome back. Organization Families for Lead Freedom Now and Legal Services of Central New York, in partnership with Earth Justice, released the Falling Through the Cracks report, which reviews data on lead-related code enforcement from the first few years under Syracuse's 2020 lead ordinance. Here to tell us more about the report is one of the code lead authors, Marissa Lieberman-Klein. Marissa, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
So let's jump right into this. For those who are just learning about this issue, can you explain why lead poisoning is still such a serious problem in Syracuse?
Yeah, absolutely. So Syracuse has a lot of older housing built in the first half of the 20th century, and a lot of that housing is rental housing. And so that combination means that the lead paint in those houses is still there and isn't necessarily being abated or addressed, just by the landlord out of, their own sense of fixing things up. Mm-hmm. And that's why, having an ordinance is so important, so that, there are mechanisms to have the landlord fix these problems.
And now lead poisoning is something that we hear a lot of times in regards to maybe paint chips or dust or things like that. So can you tell us why lead poisoning typically affects children and why are the impacts so long lasting?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. Lead paint, lead dust, lead paint chips, those are kind of the most common forms. And children, as you know, if you know children, they just put stuff in their mouths. They eat things. If it's on the floor, they're going to try it. And they're crawling around down there and their toys get in the dust. And so they're more likely to ingest it than adults who are not putting things in their mouths that they don't know what they are. And also children's brains are still developing, and lead has neurological effects. And so it's very potent on developing brains, and the neurological problems can last a lifetime.
Yeah, and now this particular report says that Syracuse has one of the highest rates of childhood lead poisoning in the country. Why here?
Yeah, so like I said, the age of the housing is a really important factor, and again, the percentage of renters. Because if you own your house, you're much more likely to be taking care of it and to be making improvements and making sure that your family is safe. But if you're a landlord, especially in low-income housing, where rents are not that high and the landlords are not making a lot of profit, they're much less likely to voluntarily do remediation work or, protect their tenants.
Mm-hmm. And now the report itself is called Falling Through the Cracks. So when it comes to cracks in Syracuse law enforcement, where are the gaps? What needs to be filled in?
Yeah, so one of the things we talk about in the report, we have a lot of kind of recommendations and we looked at a lot of data. But Syracuse, the way their ordinance works is that rental housing is supposed to register with the city before you can rent it out. And part of the registration process involves these proactive lead inspections, so that the house will get inspected regardless of whether there's a child there or regardless of the child's blood lead levels, it gets an inspection. But that only works if properties are being registered and applying for the city's rental registry. One of the big problems is that a lot of landlords are not registering, they're not applying for the registry, and therefore they're not getting these proactive inspections. And the city is not doing enough to ensure that property owners register their properties when they want to rent them out. A report by the city auditor found that over half of rental properties in Syracuse were not registered. And So one of the things that the city really needs to do here is ensure these properties are registered so that they do get these proactive inspections, so that the lead paint is found before a child gets poisoned, so that those children don't fall through the cracks.
My next question was that landlords aren't registering their properties, right? And because it's such a large number, what are the long-lasting impacts or the consequences of them not doing so for families and children?
Yeah, so again, the point of this registry for lead enforcement is to do these proactive inspections before a child is poisoned, before a child has an elevated blood lead level. If these inspections aren't being done proactively, what happens, or what can happen, is that the child gets tested for lead by their pediatrician and they find an elevated blood lead level, and only then does the county health department do an inspection and have the landlord take remediation measures. And that means that that child was already lead poisoned, rather than getting this proactive inspection to fix the lead problem in their housing before that could happen to them.
So if there's repeat lead violations, essentially they now have to go through another process rather than just registering and doing the inspection beforehand.
Exactly. And repeat violations also can show that whatever remediation the landlord took, usually they just repaint. One of the cheapest ways to remediate lead poisoning is just lead paint, is just to paint over the paint. And that needs to be maintained and monitored, and landlords should be checking on that on an annual basis at least. And repeat violations show that landlords are not doing that. If landlords are having multiple violations within a very short period, then we know that those interim controls, that repainting, didn't hold long enough and needs to be maintained better.
And what are some different steps that the city should be taking to enforce the 2020 lead ordinance effectively?
Yeah, so like I said before, one of the biggest things is ensuring these properties are all registered and getting their proactive inspections. A second thing that the city has started to do, but we believe they should continue to do in large measures, is if a landlord says, no, I don't want you to inspect the interior of this building, they need to get a warrant, an administrative warrant, which they can and have done, to make sure that they are inspecting the interiors so that they can find these problems and have the landlords remediate them.
And for the landlords who are ignoring the lead hazards, are there any consequences or no?
So if there's been an inspection and a violation has been issued, then yes, there are consequences. There can be fines. There can be a hearing with the City Board of Administrative Affairs, and if they don't pay their fines, if they don't remediate, there are eventually other consequences in terms of a lien against the property potentially down the line. But if the property isn't getting inspected, then no, there really isn't, because the city doesn't know about the problem to issue a violation and for there to be these consequences.
So all these landlords can just be like breezing by with all this hazard and nothing is being done, but essentially families and children are affected.
Exactly. And, given the power imbalance between landlords and tenants, it's very difficult for tenants to be able to tell their landlord, I need you to fix this problem, because then they become a problem tenant who their landlord, may try and retaliate against, even though it is not allowed. But, we see that, of course, in rental housing, particularly, again, lower wealth rental housing.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about how the issue intersects with racial and economic justice in Syracuse.
Yeah, so the correlation between children with lead poisoning and children of color, particularly Black and Latinx children, is very high. Black and Latinx children tend to have higher lead levels than white children. And of course, again, if you are of lower wealth, you're more likely to live in housing that is being kind of neglected by your landlord, or where you don't have the option to live in lead-free housing. It's just not something that you can afford to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And now your report includes a number of clear recommendations, but if you had to choose one recommendation to be done immediately, what would it be?
I think the most immediate thing that we mentioned in the report that the city should not do is report parents to Child Protective Services for having children in housing with lead hazards. Obviously, it is not good for children to live in housing with lead hazards, but if it's rental housing, it is not the parent's fault. it is the landlord's fault that the housing is like that. And the parents usually don't have that many other options. And when the threat of having their child taken away from them is on the table, they tend to take extreme measures like living in their car or, refusing to let inspectors inside their apartment lest there be, an inspection that finds lead and it turns into, a fight for their child. That is probably the most immediate thing the city can do, but obviously, they also need to make sure these properties are registered and that they are doing these proactive inspections.
That's interesting in a disappointing way, but it's interesting that the parents are being blamed for something that they may not have control of, right?
Yes, and I think that is the thing in rental housing is that this is something that is under the landlord's control. Most of the time in rental housing, hiring an EPA certified contractor to do painting work in your home is not your job, and it's far too expensive for it to be your job. And it's the landlord's job, and it's the city's responsibility to ensure that this is what the landlords are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, how are groups like Families for Lead Freedom now helping families directly, and what support do they need from the public?
So Families for Lead Freedom now is doing a lot of community education on the dangers of lead in small amounts, and the importance of getting children tested, and the importance of finding out where it is in your home and what small steps you can take, like having your child tested, testing your water, cleaning any dust you may see immediately. And support that they need is, kind of always just more people in Syracuse joining them in these efforts and more people in Syracuse fighting with them to hold the city accountable and hold the county accountable. Our clients have been working on this for decades, and the ordinance is a good step forward, but it's not worth anything if it isn't enforced. And anyone in Syracuse, who wants to join with Families for Lead Freedom now in advocating to the city, I know they would appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just lastly, as we wrap up on this interview, what message would you want to send directly to city leaders watching this interview today?
I think the thing I would want to send to city leaders is that lead poisoning is completely preventable. It's something we know how it happens, we know how to fix it. And the city can take steps to do that. Their laws allow them to. All they have to do is want to.
Absolutely. Marissa, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and sharing this information with us. I learned a bunch in this segment, so thank you.
You're welcome.
If you want to learn more about this report, please go to the website on your screen below. Stay tuned. We have more open right after this.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. We would like to take this time to look back at an interview with Tim Magliano, the co-founder and CEO of Bandana. where we discuss how they are helping empower the average job seeker with the resources they provide. Let's take a look. So excited to talk about this. From the moment I read this, I'm like, this is such an amazing initiative. So tell us a little bit about Bandana and its mission to transform the job search process for hourly and entry-level workers.
Yeah, so when it comes to Bandana, the thing that we thought was missing this whole time when it comes to job search is one, transparency, and then two is trust. On the transparency aspect, what we show you is similar to a Zillow or a StreetEasy. There are tens of thousands of jobs in New York City all placed on a map. So you know the exact location of every job that you'll look for on Bandana. And then on top of that, we add something like our subway filter. So you can see, hey, this job is right next to this subway line, right next to the 1 train, the 6 train, the D train. So people understand that commute aspect of it. On top of this map transparency, we also show you pay. So not only do we show you the hourly pay and the ranges, we then do the math for you to show you what does that look like every week, every month, every year. And then on top of that, we then do your income taxes, so you know exactly what your take-home pay is. So you could be earning $60,000 a year, but actually after all the taxes are out, you're taking home $42,000 per year, and you know that's the $42,000 that you have to spend on your livelihood. So that's the transparency aspect of it. And then the trust aspect of it is Bandana really cares about basically making sure that what you're applying to is a real job. There's a lot of job scams out there. There are a lot of ways people fall for different things that we just want to prevent. And we go, hey, we're only going to post jobs on our platform where when you click on a job, it goes directly to that company's career site. So you know exactly where you're applying to, and you know that your job application is actually going for that job. And that's Bandana.
That is amazing. That is a one-stop shop for finding a job. And when I speak to people, you know, one of their biggest issues is that applying for a job is almost like a full-time job in and of itself. You have to go through the scam jobs. You have to go through the jobs that it's like, okay, you're on Indeed or you're on another platform, and it's like, okay, am I going to hear back? Am I not going to hear back? And again, it's like a full-time job in and of itself with the resume, with everything. So I think this is so important. And then the financial aspect. So tell us a little bit about what inspired Bandana's unique approach to making jobs searchable by the subway line.
Yeah, so I think for me, the inspiration for Bandana comes from the fact that I live in New York. And when we came here, I was born in the Philippines. We landed in JFK when I was 6 years old. And then we ended up in New Jersey, where I lived most of my life. And to me, my mom, who takes the train every day from NJ Transit, even today, from Matawan, New Jersey to New York City, I know exactly how much commute matters for people. And if you live in the Bronx and maybe your job is in Greenpoint in Brooklyn and you have to take the 1 train and then the 7 train and then the G train, and that's 3 different train lines that you're taking, that's 45 minutes, 50 minutes each way. And we know and understand, hey, if we can find you a job, maybe instead of making those 3 switches, just keeping you on the 1 train, and that job is right outside of the station and your commute's just 10 minutes rather than 45 minutes each way, we're saving you an hour, 10 minutes every day. Time is money, and also that is also really important in making sure people have better livelihoods. Like, commute is exhausting. Walking and going to places and making sure that basically how we design Bandana is, what does the worker actually care about? And how can we improve your life? Because this is something that I would have wanted, what I would have wanted for my parents growing up, and how do we make that even better today?
Now, mind you, this is 50 minutes on a good day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes it's going to, you know, take you upward about an hour, hour and a half. And when you're already working a 9 to 5, you think about, okay, now how much time do I have after work to do all the things I need to do just as a human being?
Exactly. And we keep talking about upskilling and all these apprenticeships. I know you guys just had a few great people on, and in order for your, not just the time to have the availability to do those things, you also want to have the mind space.
Yes.
And that's really important for us to preserve at Bandana, and that's why we care so much about making sure these jobs have the right pay, have the right health insurance, have the right subway lines and commute. And then on top of that, it's also how you represent yourself. We have a lot of great tools on BronxNet to make sure that you look the best in front of an employer. So whether it's us going in person to job fair events and going and doing free headshots for people and on the spot editing your resume for you to make sure it looks as great as possible. Or our newest tool that we just released is basically this resume enhancing tool, and we'll format your resume for you so it looks the best out of everyone's. We'll enhance it to make sure that you're using the right verbs, you're talking about your jobs the right way, and making sure that when an employer actually sees your resume, you're putting your best foot forward. And these are only a few of the things that we've introduced so far. We do things like a job tracker, where it takes a lot of applications usually to land an interview or find a job. We host all of that for you so you can keep track of everything. So you know, okay, I've applied to 20 jobs. I've heard back from 3 of them. I've gotten an offer from 1 of them. These are the ones I'm waiting on. These are the ones I'm excited about. These are my notes to tell me, hey, this is what I can improve on. This is what I need to do for my next interview. And basically, we're building for the people. And not only that, outside of the job stuff, we're also thinking a lot about your livelihood. So one of the biggest things we just recently released for this tax season is we partnered with another software company called Column Tax. And we said, hey, why don't we do your taxes for free for you? So Bandana this season will be doing your taxes for free, not just federally, which you can find free online already, but we'll also do your state taxes for free. So you won't see that random $35 charge at the end when they ask you to do your state taxes. So that's what Bandana's about. It's about improving people's livelihoods, and we're really excited about it.
That is so amazing. You know, tell me a little bit, you mentioned earlier about your journey from the Philippines to New Jersey. Tell me about how this experience in particular and just growing up, how did that help shape Bandana's mission of empowering workers?
Yeah, I think for me, when we came here from the Philippines, my mom worked in Neptune, New Jersey, locally for 3 years at a factory. We had no health insurance. We relied on school lunch programs. And to me, that was a very formative time of my life where I kind of realized, hey, my parents gave up a lot in order for me to have a chance here, in order to reach my version of my American dream. And I was very fortunate where, because of the sacrifices my parents made, I was able to get into a great college, was able to have a good career to start out my own personal livelihood. And then once I found, hey, I feel very settled, I feel financially stable, how do I build something that I'm really excited about that isn't just another AI company, tech company that is all glamorous and flashy, but how do you actually build something where if you look back 20 years ago and you look at yourself as a kid and you're like, hey, I'd be really proud that I'm building something like that. And that's what Bandana is kind of this mission where tech has been around for so long, the promise of technology, and we felt like hundreds of millions of people have been left out. And it's one thing to build something so someone can use. It is a totally different thing to build something so someone feels empowered. And that is what we're doing with Bandana, and we're really excited about it.
That is, again, just amazing. And I like the fact that you said, you know, number one, you mentioned the American dream. And then you also mentioned being able to look back and be proud of something that you created, because now you're helping others achieve that same dream. So in your opinion, tell me, what does that American dream look like for today's workers? And how does Bandana help them achieve it?
Yeah, so I think the American dream, the definition of it changes from generation to generation. For the longest time, it's always meant owning a home, having this financial independence. And I don't think any of that has really changed in terms of what the essence of it is.
Right.
And it is this financial independence of feeling like you are able to not just care for yourself, but care for your family, care for your retirement, have a savings, have a nest egg where you feel like you're comfortable, you're set up, you can go on vacation, you have some free time. And it is this kind of moment of feeling I don't need to worry about my day-to-day expenses and living paycheck to paycheck. And if we can get more people to feel that sentiment, even though the definition of an American dream has always been evolving, it's that sentiment of financial freedom, we can get really excited. And that's what we're trying to do here is when you're a worker, let's say you've been working as a restaurant worker and you've been earning $17 per hour working at this restaurant. And what Bandana shows you is you can totally love your job, but hey, next door, there's another restaurant that's paying you $22 per hour. You might not want to switch. There might be other reasons why, but at least you have that opportunity, right, where you could be earning $5 more per hour. Over the course of a year, that's about $10,000 more.
Right.
And we really care about that.
That is so important. And so with that, your recent expansion into LA is so exciting. So tell me, how do you plan to bring Bandana's worker-centric tools to even more cities?
Yeah, for us, pay transparency, location, isn't just a New York thing.
Yeah.
It's an America thing. Everyone cares about commute. Everybody cares about how much you're getting paid, what your health insurance is, what your benefits are. And what we also care about is we want to make sure wherever we launch in a new area is that there are enough jobs for you on that platform so you feel like Bandana encompasses everything that you need when it comes to your job search. So how we usually tend to launch is in New York City, we will make sure that we have jobs from as many companies as we possibly can, and we show all the jobs. So many job platforms now will only show jobs that are paid. But I'll give you an example. Let's say NYU Langone Medical School has 500 open jobs in their hospital, and maybe on one of our competitor sites, you'll only see 25 because that's what they're willing to pay for. And on Bandana, though, we know that for a worker, you want to see all 500 jobs. You want to see everything that's available out there because it's already hard enough to get hired. It's worse if you can't see everything that's an open.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that we have all of those jobs all on our platform, and we'll make sure we have that for as many companies as we can in every city. And then once we feel comfortable that this is a very comprehensive job search for you, we'll then release it. And that's what we've been doing city to city. So we just did that for LA, we did that for the Bay Area, and we're just about to do it in Chicago as well.
Tim, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Congratulations on this expansion.
Yeah, we're really excited, and thank you so much for having me.
To learn more about this platform and use their services, please go to the website bandana.com. We hope any job seekers out there were able to learn more information about this amazing new platform to help them in their job search. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.
What's up, creative family? Discover your voice with BronxNet Community Media classes. Are you ready to bring your ideas to life? At BronxNet, we offer television production classes for community members ages 18 and over, empowering you to share your vision with the world. Get certified in field production, in-studio production, and our new exciting addition, podcast production. Once certified, you can create your own show to air on one of our 6 TV channels. It all starts with our free Unleash Your Ideas Masterclass, designed to help you plan your show idea and set you up for success on your production journey. This class is offered at the beginning of each month for your convenience. Our dedicated BronxNet team is here to support, encourage, and uplift you every step of the way. Join us and become a part of the creative force that engages and inspires the Bronx community and beyond. Sign up today and start your media journey with BronxNet. Visit bronxnet.org/education to learn more and register. Let's create something amazing together.
Welcome back. The Bronx LGBTQ Expo is an event that's become a vital space for celebration, visibility, and advocacy in one of New York's most diverse boroughs. Joining us now to help us learn about how the expo uplifts queer voices is Connie Pacheco and Jomil Luna. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you both for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we get into the expo, I want to learn a little bit about both of your backgrounds. So Jomil, to start off, you wear many hats aside from that one.
Yes.
As the president of the Community Spotlight Foundation and a pharmacy sales rep at the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to work in both healthcare and community advocacy.
Yes. So I am a man of many hats, and I'm super happy to be here. So thank you, Brittany, and thank you, BronxNet. I think this is part of like who I am as a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do like wearing many hats. I like doing a lot. I like giving back to the community. So my world of HIV care, prevention, advocacy just led to the nonprofit, the Community Spotlight Foundation. And I really believe that it all has meshed so well in my life, right? The Community Spotlight, just to give you some background, started in 2020 during the pandemic. I just took to social media, started doing interviews because what I love, being on stage with a microphone, but that wasn't happening in 2020. So I had to take it to social media, and it evolved to what it is now. So the Community Spotlight Foundation launched last year, 4th of July to be exact, and now it has grown to become its own entity, right? And people in the community now are like, oh, wow, Jomil, we see what you're doing. And what I'm trying to do and build, along with my board, which Connie's also part of the board, is just to empower people, give them the tools necessary to see themselves in each other's stories. That's really what it is. That's why I enjoyed, spotlighting, so to speak, because people can see themselves and say, oh, wow, me too. And that empowers people to move forward in whatever aspect of life they are in. So in a nutshell, have been doing that, right? The Community Spotlight, AHF, been then with them for 8 years in the Bronx and in Manhattan. And most recently, I have joined the BronxNet family as a access producer, right? And it's called the Community Spotlight.
Right. And so also, you wear many hats, but Connie, you're also the powerhouse behind Recoveries Are Us. Tell us, what is the mission of your organization and how did it come to be?
Yes, I only wear 2 hats, but so Recoveries Are Us is a vocational training program in East Harlem. And that was birthed out of my own personal journey with addiction and recovery. The training is for individuals seeking a career in substance use, counseling, and peer advocacy. We're in East Harlem, but we service all 5 boroughs, and we've been in operation now for about 15 years.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. Absolutely. And so for those who may not know, tell us about the Bronx LGBTQ Expo. What is it about?
I'm going to let Connie take this one because she has a very personal story about the expo.
So the Bronx LGBT Expo was created and founded by a very good friend of mine, childhood friend, Jose Ramon. We've known each other for many, many years. And he passed away in 2021, a year after he was diagnosed with ALS. Lou Gehrig's disease. And in his final days, I was one of his first sponsors for the LGBT Expo. And not only that, he also created the White Shirt Project, which is where I met Jomil. And in his final days, he sort of kind of handed the reins over to me and said, don't let them forget. And I get a little emotional when I talk about that. But we continue to do the Expo in his honor and legacy. And through the creation of the White Shirt Project, that's where I met Jomil. He's one of the spokesmodels there. And that was another platform that he used to bring about awareness, to dismantle stigma with regards to, the LGBTQ population. Since then, we've done it now 5 years, and Jomil has been instrumental and integral in helping me to do that. I couldn't do it without him. So yeah, and we continue to honor his memory.
Thank you for sharing that. Such a beautiful anchor for a
Thank
vital
you.
event. So thank you for that. And so let's just share a little bit about why it's so important to have an event like this right here in the Bronx, and how does it differ from similar expos in other boroughs or cities?
I'll say personally that there's not enough, right? I
Mhm.
think we could always use more LGBTQ plus visibility now more than ever. I feel like every year we say now more than ever, but now more than ever do we
Right.
need LGBTQ plus visibility.
Mhm.
We need to show the community that there are resources that they can tap into, especially here in the Bronx, right?
Mhm.
The Bronx has a beautiful, vibrant LGBT community, and I feel like we just need to showcase that. So the Bronx LGBT
right.
Expo is an excellent showcase of the talent, the business owners, the local community, the leaders, everybody who comes together for one specific day, one event. But to show that 365 days a year, there are people in your community that represent as such.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, and this year our theme. Every year we have a theme. This year our theme is we're going to highlight, spotlight Juneteenth.
Mhm.
So our theme this year is our freedom, our truth, honoring identity and mental resilience. Every year we have a theme, and we want to be able to showcase that and let people know that, because the Bronx is one of the underserved boroughs when it comes down to the LGBTQ. So we want to be able to highlight and have a platform where individuals can come together. And that was Joey's dream, to have a platform where people can come together and not only have the resources, but the availability to these resources.
Absolutely. And now tell me, when people come to this event, what can they expect? Are there panels, performances? Tell us, what can they expect?
Oh my goodness, yes. We have a powerful panel this year
Mhm.
speaking on truth, identity, freedom, and oppression, and the liberation of Black and Brown and Latino LGBTQ community. The panel, that's the first portion of the expo, which is the panel discussion and powerful speakers as well. And then in the afternoon, we have one of the best, I think, drag performances.
Yes.
There is,
Oh.
yeah, it's a very happy event.
It
I mean,
is.
it's
It's
just
beautiful.
morphed into something really, really big. We're now called a
Yeah.
traveling expo because we're all
Yes.
over the Bronx.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I was going to say, it's like our shirts.
Oh,
The
yeah.
colors of the rainbow. Vibrant, energetic.
That's right.
You know, Connie and I are a dynamic duo. I always thank Jose for leaving her to me and vice versa, I'm sure. But we bring so much, right? You know, like you have your story and I have my story, but I think what we try to do is we try to tell other people's stories.
That's right.
And that's that selflessness that this event really brings about. It's just like this beautiful, just, oh man, like everybody coming together for one cause. And that's why it's such a beautiful event. 7 years later, right? It has really become a staple in the Bronx.
That's
and
right.
I don't know, but I think we have one of the best events.
We do. It's the only exposition in the Bronx. There's no other exposition like it that I
That's
know
amazing.
of. Yeah. Mhm.
That is amazing. First of all, I'm so excited. I'll be there.
Yes.
I cannot wait to see this performance.
Yes,
I
yes.
love a good drag performance. Now, tell me, how has it been being a part of the Bronx LGBTQ plus Expo? Just tell me, like, what that experience has been like, and just being a part of this event that's so vital to the community.
You know, the
Oh.
Bronx is a tight-knit community.
Yeah.
And when you work, especially like in my field, the field of HIV or in recovery of substance use, you realize that there are key players, but that we're all one family. And that because of that, we're willing to help each other no matter what. And so there's this tight-knitness
Right.
about the Bronx that I love. I have worked in other places. I don't see that tight-knitness like the way
That's
you
right.
see it here
That's
in the
right.
Bronx. And
That's
people
right.
just lift each other up.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that doing the expo year after year, not only are we learning more about what the Bronx needs with regards to the LGBTQ community, but learning about each other and learning about the trajectory of how we got here. And also, it's just such an honor to be able to do this for Jose and not letting people forget what he started and where is morphing, where is it going, right?
Absolutely. And I'd love to ask, are there any specific LGBTQ plus issues in the Bronx specifically that this expo aims to address directly?
I mean, I can jump into the work that I do with HIV work, right?
That's right.
Obviously, we absolutely need more HIV testing, linkage to care. Now, PrEP exists, right? Pre-exposure prophylaxis, super important to make sure that we get the epidemic down to, non-existent, right? While we're working on a cure. And so many health issues. And then I'll let Connie take over the
and
recovery
also
part.
the stigma that's associated with the LGBTQ community, right? Now with the climate that we have going on, more than ever, like you said, Jomil, we want to highlight that. We want people to understand that there is a platform, there's resources, the availability. We've had in the past people come to us in the expos and said, this is such a good thing that you guys are doing, and it's open to everyone. We have something for everyone at the expo. So yeah, we definitely want to, impact stigma, stereotype, discrimination. Oh my God, the list goes on and on. But
I just wanted to touch on the fact that maybe some people still can't say gay. And I know that sounds like super simple, but some people won't even touch that topic. Some people still don't want to be associated with anything that has to do or says AIDS. Because there's such a stigma to it. So, we have so many varying stigmas. And so that's what the expo is really also about in our panel and our keynote speakers. It's really to dismantle, to break down those barriers that keep people from engaging in services, getting out there, telling their story, and just being themselves.
Authentically. Yep.
Absolutely. And now something that I definitely want to talk about is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit now, is how this event is inclusive to all, especially communities of color, trans individuals, and the youth. What is that welcoming space like?
All communities.
All communities.
Yeah.
This year, we're doing it at the YMCA a la Central because we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just that. It's inclusivity, not just for the LGBT community, but for allies as well, for anybody who is even curious about, okay, so what's going on in there, right? It's inclusive to families, to young children, adolescents, seniors. It is just, we have over 30 vendors this year from within the community and out of the outskirts of the Bronx as well. So we're bringing all these resources to the community.
And unlike other expos, right? It's very like, we're gonna sell you something. No, this is very much community. This is very much like, hey, people in this room are all trying to give to you,
right?
And not trying to take from you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the beautiful part about it, that in traditional settings of expos, it's always like, oh, here's something that we're trying to get you to sign up for or sell you, right? Which, we have some vendors, but it's not all about that. You know what I mean? So it really is a community-oriented expo that I think just brings so many good resources to the community. So that's really like the essential core of the Bronx LGBT Expo.
Absolutely. I want to thank you both so much for joining us today. I am so excited to attend the event. But until then, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you. We brought you some swag, so.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
So for those who may want to learn more about this expo, we encourage you to visit their website at BronxLGBTExpo.com. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 8 p.m. tonight on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and Rena Valentin on Friday. I'm Brittany Skyler. Take care of yourselves and don't forget, paciencia y fe goes a really long way.